Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of 10 Minute Marvel. As we promised last week, we're going to be talking about what the 10-year plan might look like for the X-Men in the MCU, as well as the news and rumors for this week. So, fresh from having broken into Kevin Feige's office and taken pictures of his whiteboard, I'm Petter, and joining me as always.
As always, everyone, it's Greg, and I am gonna just tell the cops on Petter because that's illegal, Petter. Do you not understand that? Like, you can't just break into somebody's office like that. But I would like you to share your secrets of what you found out first, and then I'll turn you in. So I'll give you that chance.
Okay, okay. So, well, this will be our final episode of the 10 Minute Marvel podcast. Wait,
Uh, yeah, that's probably true. I don't know if I could carry this on without Petter. That's a lot of news and rumors I had to figure out,
yes.
and a lot of topics that I would not have enough to say about.
Yes. So, Greg, do you have our fancy spiel?
I think I do. I might.
It's somewhere.
I do. I got it. If you're looking for ways to support us, you can find us on our YouTube channel. Search 10 Minute Marvel. Give us a like and thumb smash that subscribe button, people. That's most appreciated. Find and follow us on Facebook and that other thing that has an X by it. And if, of course, you can leave a rating and review wherever you get your friendly neighborhood podcast from. Petter. Are we doing news? Are we doing rumors first? What are we starting with?
Let's start off with rumors.
Lovely.
We have a few about a Spider-Man Brand New Day. First, Daniel Wu in talks potentially to play Mr. Negative for this film.
Sorry, we had some news about this before, but it wasn't with him, right? I mean, it was with
Right.
Mr. Negative, but it wasn't with an actual actor.
Correct.
So I saw a picture of him.
Hmm.
He looks negative-esque.
Hmm.
Sure.
Yep. Probably more interesting, I would say, is that Peng Zhang um, is potentially going to be the fight choreographer for Spider-Man Brand New Day. They were the fight choreographer for Shang-Chi. So, with Destin Daniel Cretton directing this movie as well.
Okay. So does that mean that I'm assuming that's not Spider-Man that's going to be, I mean, those are that fight choreography stuff was fairly hand-to-hand combat style.
Hmm.
Not that he can't do other stuff.
Right.
Peng, whatever his name, Peng, first name
Peng
Peng,
Zhang.
Peng Zhong. Yeah. So
Yeah. Well, but I think it makes sense with fight choreography. It's like, yeah, a lot of what Spider-Man does is kind of hand to hand in a lot of ways. Like he shoots webs at people, but when he actually gets into a fight, instead of just stopping a bad guy, there's always like generally close quarters elements to it.
sure. I think in the way Spider-Man can leap and jump around and move fairly quickly, I could I can see how that would be kind of the zone that
Hmm.
that fight choreographer kind of
Yeah.
lives in, and he can make it really probably unique and fun and interesting. Something that we
Hmm.
haven't maybe seen before
Yeah.
in a Spider-Man film.
Yeah, like I think of from Shang-Chi in particular with this, I think of like the bus fight.
Yeah.
Like you bring that over to Spider-Man, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man kind of had some fun choreography in it, if I recall, like
Yes.
to a level which was a little bit noticeable for me. So it made it better, was what I'm saying. So that'd
Yes.
be good.
All right. Then the next one is that it's going to be more grounded, not a multiversal story. I think with this quote, this rumor, um, it was also they were kind of talking about it as kind of a soft reboot for Spider-Man, which just I think basically means kind of what we expected anyways. It's not going to be like MJ and Ned heavy. Nobody
Right.
knows who he is. So,
Yeah, I think it's a graduation sort of thing, where maybe he's kind of on to the next stage of his life, and so
mhm.
it's not as lighthearted high school like as the home trilogy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I could see it as it being a fresh start in that sense.
Hmm.
They're moving on with the character.
Yep. Yeah. To me, that just says we're taking the next step forward with the character. Um, some of the characters that we've gotten to like are probably not going to be in there as much, but that's because they're not in Peter's life as much. We're
Hmm.
not going to try and force characters back into something.
Yeah. Oh, and the grounded story aspect, which we've heard quite a bit about,
Mhm.
but like I wonder if that will pertain to because this is in between Doomsday and Secret Wars, right?
Yep.
So is this going to be more of like, hey, we got to save these New Yorkers kind of thing?
Right, or
Like,
a
yeah.
villain decides, like, okay, there's mass panic because of this incursion event happening. It's the perfect time to act
Hmm.
in some big way.
Yeah.
And now Spider-Man is having to deal with that in that setting. To me, that's
Right.
what I expect it's going to be.
Yeah. I'd agree.
So then we have a few rumors around X-Men stuff that I'm going to skip right now because we can talk about it right before we get to our main topic.
Okay.
Um, but the next one is Sam Wilson has recruited his Avengers team off screen. I think when we were talking about who's on Sam's Avengers team, we even said that we kind of expected it would happen off screen for the most part.
Did we? Like, I'm trying to
I did
remember.
anyways.
I mean, so they're probably just gonna, yeah, assemble them and then
Right.
present it to us as
Yep.
viewers, right?
Yep.
So
Especially because his team is characters that we're familiar with.
yeah, yeah, which I think that's probably a good, just skip over the assembling part and just
Yep.
go, right?
Yep. Next, the Vision show is going to be the last MCU show with major film actors in it. That's kind of what I would expect. Though I do think there's one show that could still do that if they do a second season of that show. But
Hmm. I don't know how I feel about that. I wonder, what do you think is behind
uh,
movie actors? Just the
the cost. Like the cost is really high to get those, especially the big name actors in for it. To me, this says we're not going to have the stars of any MCU movies as main characters in Disney Plus shows.
Do you think it's gonna, is this reflective of what we saw with Jeremy Renner then? And like how, like supposedly, right, they were paying him much less.
Yeah, they
So Jeremy
offered
Renner, I
him.
would say he does TV shows, right? But he's also in
Mhm.
movies. He's Mission
Yeah,
Impossible, all right, or Born Born Identity, Born Supremacy, Born something. He's in a
yeah.
Born movie, I think.
Hmm.
So being that they're trying to stay away from the movie star actors now, I just wonder if this was like the starting point, and that's why.
I kind of think so. And I kind of think it also ties into this next one where season two of Hawkeye is potentially going to be moving forward with Haley Steinfeld as the lead. Because even though she's a big name as well, she's not a big name MCU actor, like film actor. She's showing up in the Marvels for a few seconds.
What was it? Was she in? What did she come from? She was a Disney kid, right?
I have no idea.
Why don't you
Uh,
know
uh, because I don't pay myself enough to know it.
that? Wait, wait, you get paid?
Yes, we're gonna do that meme.
Uh,
Yeah, she was in Sinners, True Grit, Pitch Perfect. I'm not sure where she got her kind of start though.
Interesting. So I guess that kind of debunks then my theory of with Jeremy Renner, at least, I guess the starting point for him. So I don't know.
Well, yes and no, because I do think it's also reasonable that they offer Jeremy Renner less, potentially, if he's going to be a secondary character. Like if he's not going to, he was almost always on the screen or
Hmm.
connected, like directly connected to whoever was on the screen in the first season of Hawkeye. If you're switching that and now he just pops in as a supporting character for a phone call, a consultation, uh, most episodes, and then joins for a couple fights, that's a much smaller role. So it's, yeah, I think there's probably a number of different reasons for it. And I think just in terms of going back to that first point about none of the major film actors in there, I think this goes back to Kevin Feige's point of he doesn't want it to feel like homework. So if you have Hawkeye show up as part of Sam Wilson's Avengers team, you're going to feel like, oh, I probably should watch what Hawkeye has done on Disney Plus to be ready for what's coming next. So I think it's just kind of that mindset change.
Sure.
Then this rumor is for Doomsday that Marvel is looking for or has cast an actor for T'Challa Jr. in Doomsday.
Hmm.
I don't have any strong opinions on that. Like having
Yeah.
T'Challa Jr. in Doomsday basically just means like, okay, maybe they bring T'Challa Jr. back to Wakanda at some point in time.
Yeah. And maybe it's not 616 T'Challa.
Uh, I the fact that they're saying T'Challa Jr. And how it was written, it makes me think it is the T'Challa we saw at the end of Wakanda Forever. And so
Mm.
I think this is more this character could show up versus this character's like key character to the plot.
Yeah. Maybe it's not Black Panther at this
Right,
point, or maybe never will be. We don't know.
right.
But it's more of it's young T'Challa
Yes.
Junior, right?
Yeah.
And
Like you
he's
could
a
give
he's a part of the story.
mhm. You could give him the scene of looking to the sky and seeing the second Earth.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Something something like that.
That's a nice. I like that idea.
Yeah. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Then uh Fantastic Four First Steps is, I believe, still undergoing a few of the scheduled and planned reshoots on things. Should I do my normal disclaimer?
No.
Okay, skip it this time.
I think we're good. I think
Yeah,
people know.
yeah.
Yeah, is this gonna be the after credit or the post credits, mid credit scenes? Is this gonna
Uh
be some obviously it might be some touch ups, some
Yeah.
this
There's
works
almost always
better.
like a little bit of tweak with stuff like that. I think I wouldn't be surprised if this is the mid-credit scene from what I potentially have seen as a leak for that
Oh,
we're not going to talk about.
no, thank you. I don't
Um,
want to.
yep. I don't think it would be a major spoiler or well, it won't be a major spoiler for anything impactful in the story. I think it's just more fleshing out some of the story. Um,
And a
Stuff
mid
that I've
credit
seen.
scene?
Potentially. I
Huh.
I won't explain anything more than that.
Okay. All right.
And who knows? It could be that this could be like the somewhere in the movie too, but it feels like it could be a mid-credits scene.
Reed
Uh,
Richards gets spaghettified again.
yes. Also,
Love it.
Matthew Wood has been confirmed as the voice actor for Herbie. You might be like, who's Matthew Wood?
I was actually thinking, who's what? Give me some significance here. Okay.
He voices General Grievous.
Oh,
That's probably the biggest thing. And I mean, he's a voice actor.
sure.
So he's a voice actor who doesn't have all his characters sound the same, I'm assuming.
I was gonna say,
Plus,
if
the
Herbie sounds like General Grievous,
yeah,
might be
that would
kind of a,
be
it might be a turn off for me.
right, but it could also be hilarious.
It could, yes.
But I mean, I think we've already heard what Herbie sounds like, so
Yeah.
like that's not going to change. Um, and from what I know.
Well, glad they
Um,
got a good voice actor for it. Good job, James Wood.
Matthew Wood.
Matthew Wood. James Wood is another actor.
Yep. Dominic Thorne says that she talked to our Robert Downey Jr. About Ironheart and that he's excited and rooting for the show. This seems like, yeah,
Yeah. Hey, Robert. Oh, hey, Dominique. Hey, I'm excited for your show. Okay, great. See you
yep,
later. Okay, bye.
yes.
Just passing by.
hmm Though now I think we're 40, approximately 40 days away, and
In 40 years since they actually made the movie.
yes, yeah, the show. So
Show. Keep calling it a movie. It was a movie for a while,
it
right?
was never a
It
movie.
was a movie.
Nope.
They weren't ever making a movie out of that one.
Nope. There
Why
was
do I keep
Armor
calling it a
Wars,
movie?
which was
Uh,
also tied to Robert Downey Jr. Though I think like this is one thing that bugs me a little bit is it actually leans into one of the things that people talk about being like, oh, well, she's just an Iron Man replacement, sort of thing in a negative. It's like that's not what her character is in the comics. Like she actually is like annoyed that people keep on comparing her to Tony Stark. And she very much wants to be her own person. So this just feels like, okay, we're trying to maybe appease the people who are just being like, well, she's just another Iron Man, by being like, well, Iron Man likes it, and it'd be
Right.
maybe better just to be like, oh, the response might be better just to be like, oh, I'd recommend checking out these comics to understand the backstory of Riri Williams
Yeah.
if you before you make comments like that, sort of thing. They wouldn't,
Right.
but it,
No, right.
yeah.
It's yeah, it seems like it would, yes, a way to squash some of those kind of rumors or those kind of conversations are
Mhm.
happening, right?
Yeah.
Give her credit.
Then Vincent D'Onofrio says that there are plans for Daredevil Born Again season three, assuming it gets greenlit.
Hmm.
Also, it's sun. There's a sun in the sky, and other really obvious things.
Yes, yes. Good point. Good point.
Yeah, some of these are kind of on that. They get they the reporter asked them a question that they had to answer.
Yeah.
Then
Do you own blue black socks? Yes, I do. Oh my gosh, Vincent D'Onofrio owns black socks. Yes, he does.
that he wears with his white white
Yes, white.
Fisk suit.
Yes.
But probably the most interesting actual piece of news is that Liza Colon-Zayas has joined the cast of a Spider-Man Brand New Day. Don't know what for, but the interesting element to this is she grew up in New York and is of Puerto Rican descent.
It took me forever. I saw her picture the other day and I'm like, where do I know her from?
Hmm.
And she sort of looks like the woman from Sesame Street, but it's not. She's from The Bear. That's where I've seen her most recently, and I think on some other shows, but interesting. Marvel's really tapping into the I mean, didn't they have who was the other actress from The Bear that they were kind of pursuing? I
She was the one who Val's assistant. That actress is not from The Bear, but it was the
supposed to
gal.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh,
Yep, yep. I'm looking up her name right now just because I feel bad that I don't know it.
but
Um,
who else in Marvel Comics, though, connected with Spider-Man, is of Puerto Rican descent?
right, right, right.
Yep.
Talking
So that
from,
has
yeah.
everybody excited for it. In case you don't know,
Why?
Miles Morales.
I totally didn't even put that together.
Hmm.
Please don't fire me. Don't fire me.
Uh, I'll
Is it
dock
my
your
last
pay.
podcast? Okay.
I'm gonna dock your pay 75%.
75%. That means
Hmm.
I only get 25 cents.
Ah,
Eh,
that seems high.
Ao Adu Adabiri. I think is how you
Yes.
pronounce your name. There you go.
Yep. So potentially fun news for
Yeah, right?
Spider-Man Brand New Day. It feels like the right time,
It
which
feels,
would kind of fly in the face of not multiverse potentially, though sure, why couldn't Miles exist? Actually, we've already had a hint that Miles does exist.
oh, right. From the
Homecoming.
first one. Yeah. Right.
Yep.
I mean,
So,
it lines up on time. It lines up with kind of the story where I think just where I think they want to go.
mhm.
Sony wants to get into
Yep.
that.
Well, and I think too, Sony looks at this and goes, "Ooh, we could introduce Miles and share him with Disney in Secret Wars, and then tell Disney, send him to a different universe. And now we can create a live action Spider-Man universe with Miles as our star, while still keeping Peter Parker Spider-Man in the main MCU."
Yeah, they just like doubled their money right there.
Yep. Until they fail horribly with the
Oh, don't say that. That hurts.
it's Sony.
I
You
know.
know it's true.
Girl, you know it's
Look
true.
look in your heart. Tell me that I'm lying. All right.
You're not, and that's why it hurts so bad.
Yeah. So now we're going to move into the X-Men rumors and then jump into kind of the 10-year plan conversation. Greg has it fully mapped out. No
Greg
pressure.
does not have it fully mapped out, everybody. And I'm going to do my best so to map something out or at least provide some fun conversation and
Yes.
move it in a good forward motion that
That's what
spans
we're
for 10 years.
Mhm. That's what we're really here for is like, okay, talking about how do we make this work for 10 years? Um,
It's kind of hard. Like I was thinking about it a lot and I
mhm.
have some ideas, which I'll hopefully remember. So
Yeah. So first off, to casting potential rumors here, Patrick Schwarzenegger potentially getting cast, and the speculation would be potentially for Cyclops, is what people are guessing. And then the other one being Trinity Bliss as Jubilee. And she is a young actor. So,
Okay, wait. I think I blipped out there for a second. I'm back
mhm.
though. Um,
Yes.
what back to Patrick Schwarzenegger.
Yep.
Okay. I'm
Cyclops.
yeah, Cyclops. No, it wasn't Cyclops, was it? I thought it was. Oh yeah, no, I'm sorry, Cyclops. Yes.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
he's not being cast potentially as Jubilee.
it was weird when you said Cyclops. I my head went to a different character, oddly enough.
Wolverine?
No, um,
Morph. You're
Colossus. It was
oh, okay.
Colossus.
You always
Um,
think of Morph.
I know. Yeah. So I just him being in Gen Z.
Hmm.
Which did you ever watch that?
Nope.
Yeah. It was good. I really actually enjoyed all of that cast, and so it does. Didn't even know that that was Schwarzenegger's kid,
Hmm.
Arnold Schwarzenegger's kid, and Maria Schreiber. But it was good. He did a really good job. So I'm looking forward to that casting.
Yeah.
Um, and then when I blipped in, you were talking about what? Somebody
Trinity
else.
Bliss.
Trinity. Oh, is Jubilee.
Yep.
Visually, I
Hmm.
like it. I'm glad they're choosing somebody that I think matches the origin story, or the I guess not the origin
Yep.
story, but the character.
Yes. She was in Avatar: The Way of Water. If you've watched that,
Is she the water?
have not, so I have no idea.
I did watch that. No, I did
Uh,
not.
my
No, I did not.
apologies. My condolences.
Terrible. You're a terrible person.
Yeah.
James Cameron hates you. So does his wife. They'll never invite you on their sub.
That's okay. Um, and then the final rumor is that Marvel potentially has kind of their top director now in mind for the first X-Men movie. I want to say it carefully as the first X-Men movie because that's what the rumor says. I think we'll probably talk about some potential mutant movies to kick off the X-Men saga. But Jake Schreier, who directed a little well-received movie that just came out recently in Thunderbolts Asterix.
They really just believe in what he's doing, I think, which it's great if they see a lot of potential in him because I think he did a great job.
Hmm.
So, yeah,
And
I wonder. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and I talked about this on a 10-minute Marvel video. You can check that out. 26 of you have. That he did a really good job of getting kind of like emotional struggle into there.
Huh?
And that is one of the huge things for the X-Men. Like they constantly are dealing with people hate us. How do we respond so that
Hmm.
we're not just responding in kind? Or sometimes it's like, yeah, we do respond in kind, but now through that moment we've made things worse, sort of thing. I like the fact that they're looking potentially for somebody who's going to have that emotion in it.
Yes, that is. He was the writer of Beef, that show, right? And some of the ones that are not coming to mind, but all kind of tied around that strong emotional aspect where you you feel for the characters, and that's what pulls you in. And I think that's important for the X-Men.
Hmm.
So, and I kind of, which, well, I think we'll talk about what their story will end up being. Like, what's going to be their arc, right? Are they going to stick to the, like you said, people viewing them in a certain way?
Hmm.
Some of the, I guess, bigotry and all the stuff that they kind of have to go through in a sense.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. So those were the rumors. Let's kind of jump into that conversation then as what does the 10-year plan look like?
this was tricky. Um, I
Hmm.
was trying to figure out how they start, right? Do they start with a character and then they have to build out, or are they going to jump in with a
X-Men.
team,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, like it's just a full on maybe 4 or 5 member team, maybe six, I guess. Or like if they're going kind of like more of an original sense about
Hmm.
it. What are your thoughts? Do you think what do you how are you envisioning that they start this path?
I don't want them to just jump in. I don't want it to go from, and I think they would probably stick in a non-X-Men movie if they're jumping straight into X-Men, but I don't want it to go straight from Secret Wars, this big event of a movie, to X-Men, another movie that is going to be a biggish event sort of movie. I think I'd love to see a couple smaller movies focused on a couple of different characters first, a couple of
Does
loved characters first.
does that seem too slow out the gate? Like almost and done before? Like I know because they started with Iron Man and they had Thor. Like that I know
Mhm.
that they're kind of trying to go with that.
I think
I
you do
don't
it faster because we had how many movies before Avengers?
three how I don't even know, but
Yeah, let's just look it up.
let's do that. Iron Man, Thor,
Mhm.
uh
Incredible Hulk. So it
yeah,
goes in
okay.
order: Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, the first Avenger. So there were five movies before.
So does that algorithm? It's not an algorithm. It's a that. Oh, what am I trying to say? Will that work again? Can they repeat? I know that they want to kind of
Mhm.
do that because that worked for them.
Well, and I don't think necessarily that they want to do the exact same thing again, but I do think just jumping straight into an X-Men movie immediately after Secret Wars, which Secret Wars is going to have a bunch of characters, unless you're introducing all those X-Men characters in Secret Wars, you're now jumping into another movie where you're potentially introducing bringing in a whole bunch of new characters that people have to know and meet immediately.
Right. So we've talked that Storm
Hmm.
and Halle Berry, maybe, who knows? And Jean Grey, like these all are going to be people that quite possibly could show up, right?
Right.
In Secret Wars.
Or Doomsday.
Or Doomsday. So so yeah, I guess if you have those introductions kind of there for people in a
Hmm.
way, like they're at least going to be seen, maybe have a
Hmm.
little understanding of who they are, and then you bring in your if it's Jubilee or if it's Rogue or
Hmm.
Nightcrawler, whatever maybe they do something like well, Nightcrawler might I think he's likely coming back, right?
Well,
Um he's
he
scheduled yeah, he's
he's
scheduled for,
confirmed.
right? Yeah. Either way, so Kitty Pryde, maybe they do
Hmm.
something with Kitty Pryde, right? So that can work, I think. And I'm
Hmm.
not saying that I don't like that idea as far as like having those characters and learning about them and kind of
Hmm.
getting introduced to them.
But
But I'm just
yeah.
trying to think what they're gonna do here. I don't know from
And I
their
think,
perspective.
though, you bring up a decent comment, though, that I may take in a different way. Do we get Halle Berry back? If we get Halle Berry back in Doomsday and, say, Secret Wars, that I think requires even more introduction because it's not going to be Halle Berry as Storm in the main MCU going forward. They're going to cast somebody else for it.
Which could be confusing.
Right. Which to me says, one, I think we're going to see a lot of those X-Men characters die in Doomsday. Not even make it to Secret Wars.
Okay.
But I think it also does help kind of shape the idea that, yeah, we probably need to introduce some of these characters before we jump into a team movie, just so that people are used to the change.
So thinking about Holly Berry, right? If they show her, then she dies. Everybody knows who she is. She dies, and then you like bring into the 616 another Storm,
Mhm.
but most likely she's going to be younger.
Yes.
So it just doesn't. It seems like you're messing things up a little bit. Not you personally, but if that's what they would do,
Yeah.
you have a. So I would be like, well, why is she so much younger? It feels like they should kind of be in the same age because
But
time
yeah. But
to me is
that's one of those things where you kind of have to say like, well, when the universe gets reset at the end of Secret Wars, that changes up something.
okay.
And you have to lay that out very clearly, I think, at the end of Secret Wars.
Yes, I would
Whether
have to
that be
agree.
like you're introducing the MCU X-Men team, because that is a possibility. Like they're just like, okay, the universe got reset thanks to Franklin Richards or whomever. Now that it's reset, and maybe you have I don't know, Sam Wilson come to Earth, or like the Reed Richards come to Earth, and with a Doctor Doom like in custody or something like that, and he's like, this is he knows what has happened basically, like he remembers the other people, but he's like, okay, this is the new Earth, and then you see like maybe you see an Avengers Tower back in New York, or you see that Avengers Tower has become the Baxter Building, and you would go see a Xavier Institute for Gifted Children. You see an Avengers compound with, and you see some different actors at all those spots or some of those spots potentially. Maybe it's the chance to be if Sony is up for it. Maybe it's the chance at the end of Secret Wars you're back in New York City and you see Miles, Ghost Spider, and Peter all thwipping about New York. Just be really set up that the world has changed. Then potentially you can jump straight into an X-Men movie.
What if Franklin wants to just set things back to when he was a kid and they go from
Hmm.
there?
Hmm.
That 60s vibe, I don't know,
Yeah.
simpler, but um yeah, it's tricky. It's it's a tricky thing. I agree. You're gonna have to let people know that
Hmm.
you're gonna see the same characters but new people coming or
Yeah.
new actors or new versions of them. So
Yeah. That's why I think there's a decent chance that they don't make it through Doomsday.
I would
Like if
rather
you
they just didn't have them then. I think just not having those Nightcrawler coming back, Holly Berry, I don't think she was one of them, but
No, I think the reason they're doing that is one for kind of a that second send off because like we talked about, Deadpool and Wolverine is a little bit of send off for some of that, but I think it's because these are characters people know and love, um, and to really set the stakes of Doomsday.
definitely sets the stakes. I
Yeah.
will agree with that. But do you need to have a second send off to do it? No,
I
I don't think so.
I don't think so, but how much do other people consider Deadpool and Wolverine as a send-off to those characters? Obviously, there was like that post or the montage during the credits
Right.
of stuff, but really, we didn't see any of the X-Men characters like we thought we might. We just had some X-Men villains. So,
It just so it really just feels like it comes down to nostalgia because why pay all these actors, some of which are pretty big names, to come in
mhm,
to get killed off, and then you're respawning their characters into people that are not going to be familiar like the previous one.
mhm.
It seems
But
it kind of seems like a dumb idea.
I think there is a reason for it. And I don't necessarily disagree with you on that, like, why did we need this? We didn't, but I think it's a way, one, to kind of fold in the idea of, oh yeah, there are X-Men mutants in the multiverse. I think it also is a way to clearly set the line for the audience of these characters died and were wiped away in the multiverse and don't act like they're not coming back. It's it's kind of the same way that there are certain characters who are dead in like in particular the Asgardian. You don't have Balder the
Yeah,
Brave, you don't have Volstagg, you don't have I'm forgetting who else.
yeah. The gatekeeper guy? Can't think of his name. Um,
Heimdall. Yeah.
Heimdall.
So they don't exist anymore because they were killed outside of the event. And so I think that's kind of the mindset for it.
I to me it feels like you either move back in time, so like I said, Franklin resets, shifts back in time, you see them get older, like you can
Hmm.
recast your Storms and whoever and have them be a different character or actor and then moving up, right? Growing and getting older that way. Or you just I don't know, you just see that you just don't do it otherwise. I just don't know how
But
you get out of that besides
it's but that's I think is fairly easy. It's just the universe has been reset. This is a different universe. Like there the idea of like, okay, this is the new 616 universe that has the Fantastic Four in it. It has mutants in it. Those two things didn't exist at all prior. So why would it follow the same timeline? Like this is just
Okay.
truly a new universe.
Okay. That is, yes, I need to kind of, I think I needed to have my head pulled out of the it's the same universe kind of thing and more into this. It is completely brand new, right? It
hmm
is its own flesh and blood, if you will. So,
hmm Yeah, because I think we'll have a couple characters who remember the events of Secret Wars and stuff like that. But I think when we really see the MCU moving forward, most character that's not going to be something most people or characters know about at
really,
all.
I think they should just not know or not
I
remember.
think, yeah, I think Franklin
Okay.
and maybe Reed.
Mm,
Because Reed would be poking around with the multiverse anyways, and like just that's it, like a couple characters. Because Reed's not going to mention it to anybody because he doesn't want to potentially have people poking around at the multiverse and cause another situation like this.
yeah. There's one person I think you might have forgot.
Doom,
Two people, I guess.
Loki.
Mm, I'm not. No, I wasn't. I didn't
Okay.
think of that, but that's maybe. I'm thinking the Watcher. I think
Yeah, yeah.
Awatu would be somebody where he would reference it.
hmm
Franklin, I would definitely see his character knowing that, but I just don't think we see much of him.
Yeah.
I think that's one of those like rare instances
hmm
where we have a Franklin come back and do anything. But Reed, I think they should keep him in the dark about it. Doom, potentially. That does make his character a little interesting, like even more interesting, because like that craving of power that he has,
hmm
he tasted that and maybe he wants it back, right?
hmm
So
Or maybe, and it could very easily be a situation. Uh, they set it up in Spider-Man No Way Home. Maybe it's a situation where Reed goes to Strange, and there are some people who know, and just ask Strange to wipe everybody's memories of this. Nobody will remember so that history can't repeat itself.
mm,
Like nobody's going to,
doesn't that
yeah.
cause incursions though?
Only because Peter messed with it.
All right, well, Strange, don't screw it up this time.
Peter, don't mess with it this
Yeah,
time. Uh,
don't interfere with Strange while he's doing a very massive
memory wipe.
mind-altering spell. Yeah.
Yeah,
Jesus, man, have some patience, kid.
yeah. Or think it through before you start asking somebody to do
Right.
something.
Yeah. I mean, take a hot minute and just like think
Okay,
about it, man.
but back on the topic of that 10-year plan,
Okay.
then if they kill everybody off in Doomsday, like they kill off the X-Men characters in Doomsday, we're introduced to the idea that there are new X-Men and there's Xavier's school already. I'd still probably do two movies before an X-Men movie.
Would you individualize them or tag, like maybe to make it a tag team, like two people you get?
Two people. Yeah, I think generally.
I know what
Um,
you're pitching. I can already smell it coming down the pipe.
well, one of them for sure should be Xavier going and finding Storm. I think like that would be a key, like just a really different feeling movie for an X-Men movie of like dealing with the Shadow King, helping
Yeah, I like
Storm
that.
realize her powers, stuff like that. And that should be the second of the two of them because then at the end he's rescued Storm and he brings her to Xavier's School for Gifted Children, and we see multiple kids already there.
Does the Shadow King put him in the wheelchair? Is that what you're thinking?
I don't know because the
Or just keep him out of the wheelchair?
yeah,
Can we just
keep
keep
him
him
out of
out?
the wheelchair for a while is what I would say. Make it feel different. And that's what they did with House of X, Powers of X. He's not in a wheelchair for
Yeah.
that. Um, and then obviously you know the other one, would be Gambit and Rogue, is uh, immediately where my mind goes for something like that. But there are other characters I would just say don't have it be Wolverine. Don't
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that.
for a little while now here, just let Wolverine pop in as a character who shows up to help the X-Men sometimes and says screw you and leaves other times and maybe helps the Avengers at one point.
Yeah. What about my man Nightcrawler? Like, isn't so Nightcrawler's
Nightcrawler and
mom
Mystique.
Mystique, right? Oh, they wait, that's his mom, right?
It is confusing, but yes, ish.
Okay. Who's his sister?
Um, does he have one?
I thought he had a sister. What happened? Wait, am I thinking what happened in X-Men 97 at the because he was bamfing all over, and then I thought there was a sister.
I don't think
No?
so. But I mean, Mystique and Nightcrawler could be an interesting.
Or right, I was thinking there would be like mother and then the siblings kind of thing. I thought,
Mhm.
but oh wait, maybe I'm thinking Ezekiel. Is that his dad?
Azazel?
Azazel. That's it.
Um, no, not in the
What am I?
current comic
Why?
continuity.
Okay.
But yes, there was.
Too many mutants doing too many other mutants.
Yeah, it is a. I
E-
believe the current
X orgy is what you're gonna say.
version is that Mystique changed herself into uh, a man, like used her shape-shifting abilities to do that, and got somebody pregnant with Nightcrawler. I believe that is the current comics origin.
That's some sick stuff, man.
Mhm. No,
Way to
they
go,
were,
X-Men.
yeah, yeah. The X stands for
Appropriately stands for what it appropriately stands for. Um,
but I
well,
think,
that gets
yeah.
that's too complicated, right? That's way too
Hmm.
complicated. Maybe something for further down the road when they really get into the triple X area.
Hmm.
Um, I think
When they introduced Leather Boy.
yes. So then yeah, I mean with talk of Jubilee in the casting,
Hmm.
you start there and then if you tag team, who do you bring with her?
Hmm.
Like
Or do you bring it, do you have it be a Jubilee movie, which would make Brandon Barrick on New Rockstars super excited?
uh-huh.
But instead of having Charles being the one who's like helping her and bringing her in, maybe you have a Cyclops and Jean Grey. They're out in the field. Like Charles has sent them to go find her. And so we
Yeah.
get to see a different dynamic that
Yeah, yeah.
way.
Like I say the Sentinels, but that's way too close to what they've already done
Hmm.
in the cartoon side. Um, yeah. I mean, again, I'll just say I do enjoy your Rogue and Gambit like
Hmm.
story. I think that has some good potential, and I'm not sure just because of horny Gambit, right? Like I don't
Hmm.
want it to be a love story so much or like a seduction kind of story. I want it to be more of a kind of I can't tell whether I like that or not. I mean, as far as starting things off in the first
Hmm.
one or two movies, I just don't know if that's how you kick things off. But to give it some depth and to kind of create a team that you understand, well, you have Gambit, who's kind of
Yeah.
a horny dude, right? For
Yeah.
Rogue.
And I mean, you can go very differently with Gambit easily. You can let their relationship foster over multiple movies. There's nothing, Gambit's a playboy type of just like smoothie, or he tries to be, but you could just have that not work out for him, and that doesn't change his character
Yeah.
at
Just
all.
don't start the character young, like Rogue. Don't make her young and then Gambit
Mhm.
older.
Yeah. No,
That
keep
becomes,
him about the same age.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And but then you have that first X-Men movie after that, in my opinion.
Right. So if you could do Storm, you got Professor Xavier, right? And then you could
Mhm.
have Rogue and Gambit or
Yeah. Let's just
Jean,
say,
Cyclops, and
yeah,
Jubilee. Yeah.
Jubilee. Yeah. Because then you only have to introduce us to a few other characters. Like I would expect Beast to be there, which he may
Yeah.
not be right away, but it it takes the lift off of the X-Men movie to introduce us to everybody. It
Hmm.
allows it to be kind of that bigger, how do we work together as a team kind of movie that we saw in Avengers, just in a different way. Like these people are already wanting to be a team, are already all in the same spot, same page. But what does it look like to actually put it into practice when there's a mutant out there who's causing troubles?
Yeah. I think whatever character duos that they go with, I think it almost has to become like the core of the group.
Potentially.
And I mean potentially, right? I mean, but I think
Hmm
that it needs to be something that they weave through the first phase of this stuff coming out, at least.
hmm
Just because then I think that it has weight to it. So whether
hmm
it's Jean and Cyclops' relationship, whether it's I don't know Xavier and Magneto, I don't know whatever
hmm
it just needs to have something
Yeah.
to hold on to.
Yeah, because I think it'd be great to kind of weave that first phase together, and then you start to see after that X-Men movie, you start to see some of the other X teams, um, X-Force or whatever, that they start to become teams under Charles, and then when you have your second big X-Men movie after you have some of those other team up movies and movies where you're introducing other mutant characters in between, something goes wrong in that. You get the disagreement between Scott and Charles that splits Scott off. He
Right.
thinks that no, Charles has gone back on what he stood for, and that doesn't sit right with me, so I'm leaving.
Hmm.
And you get your fractured X-Men teams all kind of trying to do their own thing. And then you have whoever your villain is kind of rise to fill in some of the gaps or seduce some of the people who feel like they don't know where they belong anymore with the X-Men.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that, who I was trying to think of some like in year 10, we'll say,
Hmm
where do you think you lead up to villain wise? Who do you lead up to? Does it do you feel like they should be staggering out some of the big ones throughout and we end with Apocalypse? Because 10 years from now, people are gonna forget about what the apocalypse that happened in the last whatever 5 to
10 years,
7 years
yeah.
of
Yeah, I
so
mean, most people have forgotten about that movie already.
yeah.
So,
And then it was Oscar Isaacs. So
yeah.
weird. Yeah.
hmm I think, I mean, if it's a 10-year plan for it, I think with your second X-Men movie, you do Sentinels. Um, because that's a really good way to have the groups fracture. Like humanity has just created something that is focused on killing humanity or killing mutants, I should say. Like
Mhm.
that's its only function is killing us and controlling us and how do different groups respond?
I agree. That it's so ingrained, I think, in for me growing up,
Mhm.
that story, I part of me wants to see it redone again and in a bigger way,
Yeah,
better way probably.
I think that's the big thing for me is they can actually lead up and build into this event of Sentinels versus what Sentinels are in Days of Future Past, where it's like you drop into this apocalyptic future and then go to the past of
Yeah,
Sentinels being created. And it's just like we don't get the lead in.
right. I did love that. I really like that
I
movie.
en I enjoyed it too, but
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
build in a different way.
Yeah. Um, I think I think most of me wants to see the Sentinels again. Part of me is like, oh, it's kind of been done a few times. I mean, we've seen it in X-Men 97, we've seen it in Fox X-Men, but I still love the story. I think
Mhm.
it's still such a good story because I think it's just still representative of the same
Yeah.
humanity that we live in, right? I think that will resonate just the same and just as hard now than it did back then. So,
hmm Yeah.
um,
But it's something that is never going to, unfortunately, not resonate.
Yeah, right. So we got Sentinels. Do you want to see what are your thoughts? People are kind of saying meh about like Mr. Like Sinister.
hmm
I thought it'd be kind of fun, but
And there was
let's
the rumor of Sinister. I think I'm hard to be sold on Sinister as the big bad guy for three phases because he really is the big bad guy. He's almost always working with the big bad guy. So maybe give him that Loki type role in the first X-Men movie. And but then don't set him aside as much. Have him completely escape retribution, anything. Like he's defeated, but he can still then be working in the shadows as a henchman for Apocalypse, I would say.
Yeah. Um, I did a quick Google just looking up some villains because I'm like
Mhm.
kind of drawing a blank, and I was thinking, well, do you want to bring Cassandra Nova back? Maybe,
Maybe. I loved that performance.
right. So maybe you were saying the Shadow King, and earlier on with in the Professor Xavier and Jubilee. I'm sorry, or
Storm.
and Storm. I Shadow King would still be cool, but I don't know, swapping those two out, swapping Shadow King out with Cassandra Nova, but that it falls outside of the comic, I understand,
Hmm.
right? But
Which,
it's
yeah.
a different twist, right?
Yep.
Which they've done before. Like
Hmm.
Marvel has twisted things around a little bit. I think I would like to see Cassandra Nova come back, and I think having her maybe earlier on might not be such a bad idea.
Hmm.
Just it's a little less explanation, and you can push the character further,
Yep.
right? So,
Yeah. Though that is an interesting character to bring back because then you have the problem of does this character know what has happened?
oh yeah, good call.
So, unfortunately for me, I think that she doesn't necessarily work the best. I did want to toss in one thing that we haven't talked about, which is Magneto.
Okay,
And I think they need to start with and run with it for a while of Magneto and Charles generally being on the same page, same direction, not in conflict. They'll have disagreements and stuff like that, and those disagreements can grow over time, but and maybe that means Magneto is the big bad of they at the end of 10 years, but they should be on the same page up through Sentinels, which might be year 6.
yeah,
And then maybe that's the point where we get like a Genosha event or something.
yeah,
But I don't want Magneto to come in as a, yes, I'm a villain.
yeah.
It's subvert the expectation and make it impactful and make people be wondering when is he going to break bad.
I even when he does break bad, I still want it to be that dynamic where it is Ultron and Vision or
Hmm.
Tony and Cap. Those arguments that they had, you couldn't decide always exactly
Yeah.
who you agreed with more, right? Like I get Ultron's position. That's an extreme example, but I appreciated the conversation that happened at the end, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So
It's the
that's the friendship and
mhm.
devise that I want to see happen with Magneto
Yes.
and Xavier. So, because I think that when you split it like that, and you have people that are taking sides, vampires or well werewolves, that's the kind
Hmm.
of thing I want to have happen for people with the X-Men, like the Twilight series, is what I'm saying. I I want Edward or whatever the other guy's name.
um Colin. No, Edward
No,
Cullen. Jacob.
Jacob or yeah, Edward or
Jacob
Jacob.
where yeah. Yeah,
That's what I
and
want.
I want that. I also want like I want it to be clear enough though that like you understand why where Magneto is coming from,
Uh-huh.
but there, you should also always really feel like, wow, Magneto is taking this a long ways. This is too far. Like I
Right.
understand why he's doing it, but it's too far.
Yeah. Does it feel like we're just rehashing X-Men 97 because they did such a good job of covering all this?
Um,
I feel like it is.
a little bit, but no, not necessarily. And
That's where good writers come into play, I
yes,
think.
that's where good writers come into play. That also is where you have to really remember the X-Men 97 and the show it's based off of. Like most people by the end of there's not most people, but well, probably most people will not have seen the original X-Men animated series. There's going to be a lot of people who don't bother watching X-Men 97. So
Yeah.
if you're twisting stuff and playing around with stuff, because like X-Men 97 we have Magneto go from good or from bad to good.
Yeah. Quotations there. You guys
Yep,
couldn't see it, but there was quotations.
yep. So I think that there's a chance to be really different by just having Magneto generally actually be good, but just a bit more extreme, and eventually being pushed to being bad.
Yeah. Kills off his son
Quicksilver dies
again.
again.
Yeah. Quicksilver dies again. Yeah.
Yeah. Who would you want? Like, do you think Apocalypse, or do you want to build up to a Mr. Sinister? Trying
Um,
to think other big villains too.
I mean, Sinister's kind of interesting in a way, but he lurks so
Hmm.
well in the background that I'd almost like to maybe keep him there and not be
Hmm.
so forefront as a large big baddie. Apocalypse is tempting, but done before.
Nimrod?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm trying to. They did that in X-Men 97, didn't they?
Ish. Oh, yeah, no, they did that in the Nimrod shows up in the animated X-Men series.
Yeah.
So the one that ended in 97,
I'm
not
sorry.
X.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most recent season.
Which that by that point in time, 10 years from now, but more than 10 years from now, 10 years from, I mean, this would technically be 2037, I
Yeah.
think. That's 40 years ago. I think you're fine to rehash it at that point.
Yeah. That's kind of fair. I AI would be kind of taking over everything anyways, right? So it's kind
Hmm.
of in the same vein as
Hmm.
Nimrod. Yeah. What we got Onslaught otherwise, right?
Yeah. I feel
Um,
like Onslaught's too out there
yeah.
after kind of a weird multiverse story. I don't think they want to immediately try and jump into something weird. But yeah, Mr. Sinister, Apocalypse, Magneto,
Dark Phoenix.
Nimrod, Dark Phoenix.
I mean,
Don't see
do
that.
I just I don't know. I I kind of like it, but at the same time,
Yeah.
it's too many times, I think.
Do you build
Uh,
towards something like the Shadow King?
yeah.
Do you make him be a big villain?
I mean, I mean, I'm basing this off of what I understand from the show Legion, right? What I
Hmm.
watch. It's messed up. It's
Yeah.
pretty, right? It's kind of interesting though. It doesn't have to be as complex and convoluted as what they did in Legend, but not Legend. Legend? No. What did I just
Legion.
say? Legion. There we go.
Yes.
Uh, doesn't have to be as convoluted or complex as that, but I think it'd be refreshing and interesting.
Hmm.
Um, Otherwise, is it the culmination of a bunch of characters that are all following Magneto, right? So it's
Hmm.
not just Magneto, but it's him and the Brotherhood.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Like the Brotherhood, I mean, my favorite group, I feel like you have to get in there at some point in time, or at least a group that I like fairly well. Hellfire Club.
yep, yep,
But they feel like a group of villainous people that just kind of show up and leave and show up and leave. You can never really get rid of them. You take out or you take care of one head of the Hellfire Club, somebody else steps in, sort of thing.
yeah. Did I hear you say you wanted Mojo?
Yep, Mojo and Arcade. I want those to be the main two.
Yeah, that would that's like a I don't know. It's like that's something you give Sam Raimi. I feel like
Hmm.
that's a Raimi movie.
I mean,
Uh,
just do um, Ready Player One
right?
with Mojo. Uh, you're having to complete these challenges to get back out of Mojoverse.
Yeah,
Just do that for a movie.
slash the Running Man kind of thing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that we're talking about it, I'm more interested in the Shadow King, I think, as my overall villain.
I am because I want something I haven't seen before.
Hmm.
And there's a lot. I feel like there's a lot you can do with Shadow King. It's
Yep, I agree.
it's kind of weird though. Like it's not like a brute force kind of thing, right?
Hmm.
It's so what do you do? How do the X-Men? I guess that's the trick, right? What do you do
Yep.
with the X-Men to beat the Shadow King?
Hmm. And I think it gives you a
Would that put butts
chance.
in seats, really?
Yeah. But I think it gives you a chance to create some really interesting movies leading up to it because, like, think about Rogue and Gambit. I've pitched the idea of Jason Wingard.
Yeah.
It gets some of those weirder villains in there who maybe for the X-Men movies, they're beating up these more normal villains in kind of your more standard superhero fare. But in the movies in between, have them dealing with really weird, disturbing villains.
Hmm. Yeah.
Char- Characters who just like, ooh, I'm not sure about that.
It's hard though because I can't see them lurking or falling too far off the edge like that when they have to get people of all levels of understanding of comics into the theaters. Like
Hmm.
they're looking for team up movies that are punchy kicky.
Yeah, which is
And
why I
so
think you do the punchy kicky for the first two, and then the whole pitch of the third one is this is different. This is how do the X-Men defeat a villain who they can't punch and kick? Is this going to be the end of Charles Xavier? Is Professor X going to have to battle it out? Will he be able to overcome the biggest nemesis, sort of thing? And so you intentionally pitch it as the opposite.
interesting. I'm not against it. I mean, I'm
Mhm.
just worried that you don't get the people that to pay the money to make more films. So
Well, and you're still going to have your punchy kicky stuff. Let's
yes,
be
yeah,
fair.
I know. Yes, they'll have it. But if to have a cohesive
But how,
10-year plan,
but this, I think, goes back to the conversation we had last week. You don't need a cohesive 10-year plan. You need your end destination and a lot of really good stops along the way. And then when you get to your end destination, like the 10-year plan of the Infinity Saga was not a 10-year plan of the Infinity Saga. It was like, oh, this is really successful. Let's drop in Thanos in the Avengers movie and see, like, okay, people are popping for that. Let's do an Infinity Saga.
right? Because when Iron Man came out, they were shooting
Like,
from the hip. They didn't
yeah.
know what to do, right? They didn't know where it was going to end up.
Hmm. Hmm.
So,
Yeah. Thor's the great example because there's the Infinity Gauntlet in Thor,
yeah.
and they have to retcon it in Ragnarok as fake and
Right.
push it off the pedestal. So, number one most important thing is make great movies. And all the movies are a road trip, as I said last week. And it's about the journey. And each stop should be awesome. Each stop shouldn't be the next stop to get you to the end of the destination. Like the destination should be awesome in and of itself, but each stop along the way has to be important in and of
Right.
itself. Otherwise, why are you stopping there?
Which just kind of actually made me remember a big one we kind of haven't looked and thought about is what if they do Avengers versus X-Men
Hmm.
later on, right?
Yep.
That's going to be where the full stop 10 years from now
Hmm.
hits. Because I know that they're going to still do Avenger style movies.
Yep.
So, yeah,
Yep. I think yeah, that is certainly a possibility. Avengers versus X-Men. Um, it is so.
I mean, that's pretty grandiose. That is like, wouldn't that be Feige's like just gem in the sky, right? Like
Yep.
just the North Star for him.
Hmm. That could very easily be like what he's looking at 10 years from now, because I mean, how old is Kevin Feige?
Yeah. I mean, how many more hats can he have?
Uh,
All the hats
all
is
of
the
them.
answer.
He's 51, so that would put him at like 63.
Yep. I'd be like 63. I make millions of dollars.
Mhm.
I made the movies I want. Peace out. I'm done. I
Yeah.
will read my comics and be good.
Yeah, and I don't think he would actually say "peace out, I'm done." I think he'd be like, "And so and so has taken over the overall creative side of things. I'm still
Right.
executive producing on these things. I'm being brought in as a consultant for continuity and just it's like some of this deep comic knowledge that he has, and to help, yeah, look at some of these stories, but it's no longer his thing at that point."
Right.
I kind of feel, I really do think that's probably when he's going to pass it off to somebody else.
Right. You, Header. Passing it off to you. Are you ready?
Yes. Maybe?
Maybe.
Sure. I will be in 12 years.
Okay. Wonderful.
I was trying to
Well,
figure out if I could find out Brad Winterbaum's age. I think he's 46, so a little bit younger than Feige.
okay.
But Like, does he pass it off to Brad Winderbaum, or does Brad Winderbaum just stay in charge of television side of
Yeah.
things?
Who knows? Maybe Gunn gives up on the
Yeah,
DC universe and comes back and runs the show.
yeah, he's older than Feige by 7 years.
Oh, yeah, but he's way more energetic, I feel like. He's still
Yeah.
dancing on stages.
hmm I don't know if that has anything to do with
If you
anything
dance on
important.
stage, if you're dancing at 50 something,
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
yeah. But I think we've tossed out some decent
Yeah.
ideas there.
It's not a solid like here's year 1 to 5 to 10, but
hmm
it's a roadmap. It's
hmm
got some merit to it, I think.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to do a video of mapping it out a little bit more. Um, be like, okay, this is what I would do, and kind of lay out a timeline for Mutant and X-Men movies. And I'll do a video of that around the idea of we're finishing off at the Shadow King,
Okay. All
and
right.
be like, this is how I would do something that's really different from anything we've seen before. So look for that video this week, probably not at the start of the week, because I'm going to have to spend some time on this. I can't just go off the cuff like I do most of the time.
Yeah, that's
But
gonna take some thought.
anything else, Greg, you want to touch on with it? Any other
No, I,
villains?
like I said, I didn't have a lot of notes going in here. I had some ideas, but a little off the cuff for me. But it was good. I thought it was a good conversation. And no, I think I'll be interested to see where it goes, of course,
hmm
as always.
Yeah. I do think we are going to, after and maybe even during Secret Wars, get kind of that first hint of X-Men and stuff like that. But for sure at the Comic-Con after Secret Wars, we're
Mhm.
going to get something.
Oh yeah,
So that's still 2 years away.
it'll become fast.
I
It'll be here faster than you can even believe it.
It will unfortunately be here faster
Yes.
than you can believe it. But with that, thank you so much for listening. Let us know your thoughts. Who would you want to be the first big villain, kind of that tenure villain of the X-Men? Drop that down in the comment section below. I'm going to toss up, when I put out the video, some a poll, if assume I can remember, of like, okay, who do you want as the big villain uh, for X-Men? And you can vote on that on the YouTube. Search for 10 Minute Marvel, click on the post tab, and Greg gave a few ways you could help support the podcast at the beginning. And we really do just want to say thank you to everybody for checking out the podcast and the videos that we put out. If you enjoy this content, I guess Greg gave a few ways you can help support. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/10 Minute Marvel. Nope, patreon.com/nerdologists. The funds go to help improve the quality of this podcast, as well as my memory, as well as the Molten Meeples YouTube channel, 10 Minute Marvel YouTube channel, and nerdologists.com website. But with that, we'll see you next time.
Take care, everybody. Bye.